Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no copay. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that. But we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you.
Discover a new path to wellness at Arizona Metabolic Health. Dr. Brian Lenskis offers advanced medicine and personalized care, treating the root causes of your health concerns, not just the symptoms. Whether you're seeking direct primary care, effective diabetes management, or medical weight loss, with a holistic approach, our team is here to guide you every step of the way. Visit ArizonaMetabolicHealth.com today to learn more about our innovative health solutions.
Happy April, everyone. I want to thank my sponsor, Health Code, for making this podcast happen. They've been so great. They've been so supportive of everything we're doing here, and they even let me speak off the cuff and do my own thing. So I just want to thank them for all they're doing. I'm using their products with a lot of my seniors. I'm in Prescott, Arizona a lot now, and I'm seeing a lot of seniors with dementia and Parkinson's and neurodegenerative conditions. And it's so great to have a product that I can share with them that they like. One of the tragedy is a lot of the adult drinks that they give people are loaded with just garbage stuff like hydrogenated seed oils and fructose and just terrible stuff you want to give to your worst enemy. So Health Code came along and they have great product. It tastes great with chocolate and vanilla, chocolate macadamia, and so people love it. And so seniors are not sacrificing. They want to have protein shakes and things that they enjoy, and they can make bars out of it. There's so much you can do on their website. It's outstanding. So go to gethealth.com, GETHLTH.com. Check out their recipes, different protein puddings that you can make, things like that for your seniors and for the rest of us too, who are trying to get good nutrition. So thank you, Health Code, for sponsoring this episode, and happy April to everyone. Hello, and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. This week, I'm talking about a heavy subject. It's something that it just kind of popped up. I've had some people that I've talked to lately, and I learned some stuff that I didn't really know before. So since it's Easter week, I thought we would talk about the Last Supper and probably the most tragic character in history, Judas Iscariot. So this is the guy, just a little background on this guy. He was one of the 12 disciples. He was kind of an outsider. He came from a different area than all the other disciples. So, and there were 12 of them. And so he was kind of the in charge of the money. He was given a very valuable position. He was supposed to take care of the money that was going to help feed the poor and keep Jesus and the other disciples being able to do their ministry. And so what does he do? He betrays Jesus, right? He's the one who took the 30 silver coins to betray Jesus. And, he said, basically, what are you guys going to give me to turn him in? So throughout history, and I've always thought of him as just a tragic character who was greedy and went after the money and sold out his best friends, Jesus too, who the interesting thing about him is he saw him raise people from Lazarus from the dead. He was there delivering people from demons and doing all these good works, right? And so how does it turn out? This is what's always troubled me. How does it turn out that someone who is totally connected, he's in the inner circle, how do you betray someone who claims to be the Messiah, who claims to be God. So how can you possibly betray that person? And so that's one question. Is like, how can you possibly be part of this and see it? And I kind of think the same thing when I see pastors fall, or people who are very devout all of a sudden, fall to temptation, whether it's, extramarital affairs or drugs or alcohol or whatever it might be. How can it be that you see the truth, but then you go and you just kind of live your life for yourself? And so that's what Judas is known for, and at one point there was a prostitute who was putting expensive oil on Jesus' feet, and Judas is the one who said, "Hey, don't waste all your oil. Like, we can use this money we could sell this and feed the poor and help other people." So he wasn't an all bad guy. I mean, there was a lot of things that he was doing that um, we would say, "Hey, he's a good follower of Christ" at that time. And so in some there are some scriptures that say that Satan actually entered into him, but this is at the Last Supper, after Jesus gave him the bread. And so they say Satan entered into him, but he had already betrayed Jesus at this point, right? So um, the other interesting thing about this character and the tragic thing is, after he betrayed Jesus and even before Jesus was put to death, he went in and threw those 30 silver coins at the feet of the religious leaders at the time, and he said, "I've sinned. I've turned in an innocent man, basically." And so the tragic part about it is he repented to the wrong people, right? And so uh, the religious leaders that wanted Jesus dead because he was a threat to the system, he said, "What is that?" They told him back, "What is that to us? It's your responsibility, right? You're the one who took the coins. You're the one who turned them in. So it's not on our hands." And I think that's so common in our society. We think we're just doing what everyone else is doing, and then ultimately we're the one who has to stand and take responsibility for our lives. And so that's one of the tragic things, is that Jesus was still alive when he killed himself. He went out after he threw the coins out. He went and killed himself. And you think, man, when was it he would have just went to Jesus and said, "Hey, look, I did the wrong thing, and I betrayed you." And it had to be so hard on him too, because at the Last Supper, Jesus says, "One of you who I'm breaking bread with, that we're spending all this time together, is going to betray me." And not only him, but he also called out one of the other disciples and said that he would deny him 3 times before the rooster crowed in the morning. And so it had to be so hard that Jesus knew who was going to betray him. He knew this had to happen, right, to atone for our sins. And it's just such a tragedy to see, Judas. And, some people believe that he thought that Jesus was going to be the kingdom, his kingdom was going to be here on earth, and that he was going to rise up and take down the establishment. So he thought maybe, hey, I'll make some money and I'll force this issue and make this happen, because Jesus is all powerful. Maybe he saw that and thought that he would rise up with all of his men and, overthrow the government and the Roman Empire. So that's another possibility of why Judas acted the way he did. But either way, he had self-interest, and also he wasn't waiting for God to lead and say, "Okay, I'm going to force this issue," rather than waiting. And we could all identify with that, where we want things done now. We don't want to wait. We want our paradise. We want everything now, and we don't want to have to go through the trials and the hardship. And so that's what makes him such a tragic figure. You look and say, "Gosh, he sold out. He sold out his friends. He kind of was a loner." And the interesting thing is, at the Last Supper, and this is what struck me to look into this, is just this week I had someone say, "Look at what the words are," and I never really caught it. But all of the other disciples, when Jesus said, "One of you is going to betray me," all of them said, "Is it I, Lord? Am I the one who's going to betray you, God?" And when they came to Judas, he said, "Is it I, Rabbi," or teacher? So did he not see him as God? Did he not see that what he was saying? Did he not see the big picture? Um, and so many times through scripture, you look and Jesus would say, as a matter of fact, this is Mark 8:27-30. Jesus and his disciples were traveling around. And then one day he asked them, "Who do people say I am?" Right? Out in the cities and the towns. And they replied, "Some say you're John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and still others that you're one of the prophets." And he said, "But who do you say I am?" And Peter answered, "You are the Messiah." Right? So he knew that he was the Messiah. So was that the difference between Judas, that they all knew he was a great leader, but someone couldn't say he was the Messiah? And I was thinking about back on my life, and I didn't grow up in a Christian home, and I had to figure it out on my own. But I had to like first because one of the knocks people have had on me would say, "Hey, you're a doctor. You should know better than all this hocus pocus, all this make believe stuff." So I had to think about it, and I had to go, okay, did this guy actually walk the earth? Was he a real person, or was he like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny? Um, was he real? And so we have tons of data that yes, in fact, he did walk the earth, and he was real. And then I had to say, well, if he claimed to be the Messiah, was he crazy or was he legit? And so you see all of his other disciples. I mean, they followed him to their death afterwards. So if he didn't rise up on this third day, they all would have just scattered. They all scattered on that first day because they said, "Oh, maybe he's not who we thought he was, possibly." Um, but then on the third day when he rose again, there was no denying it anymore. And tragically, the other tragic thing I think about Judas is I think about the criminals on the cross because that bothered me for a long time. One of the scriptures it took me a while to grasp was that the there was a parable of the field owner, and so people would go work in the field all day. So some people were working all day long and toiling in the heat and everything. And he said, "I'll pay you so much for the reward is the same." So some people came halfway through the day, and some people came at the very last minute, and all of a sudden, they all got paid the same. And I always thought that's not really fair. Other people work so hard, and it just doesn't make sense. That it's not fair that someone just came and worked for 2 minutes, and all of a sudden they get paid the same as everyone else. But when you start understanding from the scriptural perspective, and especially now looking back at Judas, the tragedy is the criminals that hung on the cross with him, that were crucified with him. There was two of them, and those guys mocked him. Both of them did at the beginning. They both mocked him and said, "Hey, if you're God, why don't you take us down on the cross and save all of us, and just put lightning and kill all these people who are torturing us." And Jesus said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Right, and that's such a huge part of what we believe in faith. But one of the criminals said, "Hey, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus said, "Truly, today you will be with me in paradise." Right. So even though this guy had done nothing redeeming in his life, like he was the guy who got paid the same amount at the last second. So the question is, why don't we just live our lives into the last second, repent and turn towards God? Um, the problem is we miss out on all the benefits of helping people, of being kind, of loving each other. And one of the things that Jesus said at the Last Supper, he said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you." And living in peace is one of the biggest things of having faith and saying, okay, if everything's going to work out fine in the long run, but it's hard to do when we're going through those struggles in life. And I know a lot of us people listening right now are going through struggles, and you've lost people you love, and you say, how can a loving God do these things? And there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always hope. And so I think if we hold on to that, and then just realize, ultimately, we have to answer that question: who do you say I am? Not who your neighbor, your husband, or your wife, or your friend. Who do you say I am? And so for me, I had to go through research and look at life and life, trials and all those things. And man, now I look back and trials that I face now, I go, okay, I've been through worse in the past, and all these times we've worried, and faith brings us through, And I think tragically, Judas never saw that. What if Judas would have repented and came to Jesus and said, "Hey, I wronged you. I did the wrong thing." How do you think that would have ended, right? Um, but tragically he took his own life and lost all hope and was separated from God. And that's the huge tragedy of Judas. So he's a guy again, and Jesus said, "A lot of you are going to do things in my name. You're going to go and heal people. You're going to do good things, but you never knew me." And I think what he's saying is, you never knew me as the Messiah or a God. You knew me as a teacher and I've heard it throughout my life. I have so many good friends that will say, "Yeah, he was just a great teacher." Well, that's not what he claimed, right? And that's why he got put to death, because he was doing God's work on this work on the Sabbath, and that was against the religious leaders of the time. So I think the other thing is, we can get so caught up in religiosity and holier than thou mentality, and ultimately it comes down to we all struggle, we all deny Jesus a lot. I have so many times like, yeah, I'm not praying in front of people, or I'm not gonna, say something where I know people aren't going to agree with me, but that's denying him in front of man too. And so I like to just, a lot of you know, I'm not real bold in my faith and talk about it a lot. And I don't push it on people. I really try not to. But I think these are questions we have to ask. And I think ultimately it's who do you say I am? I think that's a critical question. A great leader? Is that what you think he was? Do you think he was the Messiah? And I think these are things we really have to consider as Easter approaches, and we spend time with friends and family, and it's not just about finding Easter eggs. I think really understanding what the significance is, and I think looking back at people like Judas and go, how can it be? How could he have been around greatness and maybe even healed people and not seen it? And how can we act in self-interest and not help our neighbors or our friends? And by the time you hear this, I'll probably be on my way to Guatemala. We're doing a medical trip, and I'll be there for about 2 weeks. So I wanted to get this out to you, just to at least make you think a little bit. And, if it sparks interest, then go read about it, go to a local church, go find a friend who believes and ask why they believe what they believe. I think it's really important that we can't just, you know, look and then when at the end, when people say, well, that was your responsibility, you're the one who denied these things. Like, just because we put thoughts in your mind or, made arguments against these things. But that's the important question. Who do you say I am? Like, who do you say I am? Not who your neighbor thinks or someone else, but who do you say? And so I think looking at your faith, looking at what you believe, because ultimately being a doctor, we all come to the end of our rope at some point. Hopefully it's quick and fast and we get out easy. But sometimes it's a long struggle, and I think making the most impact and realizing what does our life mean, what kind of impact can we make on others. So it said we can heal the body, but not the soul. And I think it's so important. So many of us are struggling, and I've seen so many people with spiritual or emotional struggles, and it's such a hard thing to have fear towards the end and to have being unsettled. It's tragic to me. And so I have people that are at peace, and they say, you know what, I know where I'm going. I'm okay with this. This is the journey, and my journey's coming to an end. So sorry for such a deep topic, but I hope it stirs thought, and you can kind of. I'm not a pastor, of course, so go look it up yourself. Don't take my word for it. And of course, I'm just paraphrasing a lot of this, but it's just really important to think about these kind of things. So happy Easter to you who believe, and for everyone else, please seek and look and find your peace, and be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and just find out what life's best medicine is for you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.